Musically meditated.
Musically meditated. Musically meditated.
Welcome to episode 19 of Musically Meditated. And we're at the Green Door Bookstore tonight, and we do have Michael with us, the co-owner. What's up, Mike?
How's it going?
It's everything is lovely. With this episode, we have a special guest, maybe the most special out of all of them, artist Nick Gloom. What's up, Nick?
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Great. The first time I saw your art, it was in one of the zines.
Rad.
And how did that come about, real quick? How did you get involved in Mythos, the Mythos zine through Alec? How'd that happen?
Really, it was hanging out here. Coming here, I heard they were, Mike was doing some art stuff here, so we talked about it a little bit, and that's when he got into his, like, weird zine obsession and introduced me to the Mythos guys and, like, really kicked it off. I mean, I agree with him. His first instinct was he saw my art and said, hey, man, this should be printed. This should be a zine thing. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but we went there, and I think it's kind of made for that. It looks good there.
It looks really good. As far as your history is as an artist, could you elaborate on that? Like, how long have you been drawing and or painting, and what kind of style of art would you describe this? Like,
I guess... Yeah, I don't know. I've always been, like, super hyper creative. I've been playing music, seems like forever, and the art thing was like an extension of that, you know, like smashing into the house at 2, 3 in the morning and not being able to jam out or play my drums, you know. It was like just trying to find another outlet for being creative, and I guess that's where it started. I don't remember a time where I wasn't, like, doodling on stuff and trying to make art, but, like, taking it seriously was really just like an extension of the music, just trying to, like, find another way. You know?
Yeah. So another release besides the music.
Sure, yeah.
And you are a drummer?
Yeah, primarily.
How about some of the bands that you've been in throughout the last few years? You want to drop any of those?
Yeah, there's a ton, I guess. But, like, the most important, I played with this band called Desk Rabbit for, like, 5 or 6 years. We did a bunch of really cool stuff. That was, like, again, you know, like with the art thing, that's when I finally got serious about it, playing with that band. Like, you know, we could make stuff, we could do stuff. We could be a real band instead of, like, playing in somebody's garage. Like,
as far as your drum kit goes, what are you rocking out? Like cymbals, you know, the actual kit, snare?
I'm a paste guy.
Okay.
I play paste cymbals. I have a PDP kit, which is, like, huge. It's like a 14-piece kit. I don't always use it. The band I'm playing with now, I probably use, like, a quarter of it.
And what's the band you're playing with now called?
We're called Saltillo.
Okay.
But I really, like, stripped down for that. I think that's why I picked something up like that. You know, it's like painting with a giant palette. You know, you have 140 colors, but you can only use 4, you know, if that's what you want to do. So that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Awesome, man. Awesome. How about drumstick-wise? What do you use?
I go back and forth. For a very long time, I was using these, they're called the head sticks. They're made out of, like, aluminum.
I love those.
They have, like, a Kevlar sleeve on them. I'm kind of like a bombastic, hard-hitting drummer, and I break sticks a lot. So those, you know, I'm paying $40 and they're lasting me like 6 months or a year.
Do you change, like, I thought they last forever. Don't you just have to change the tip on them, that plastic tip?
They're supposed to last forever.
But you hit that
I was
hard?
breaking them every 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, or so, you know, but I'm just now getting back into, like, I do have, like, the replacement, like, sleeves and nylon tips and stuff, but I'm getting back into, like, I understand the allure of playing with, like, an actual... I use, like, a lot of hickory now. I'm finally getting back into that. I use them out of necessity. I used aluminum sticks on a necessity because I couldn't afford to buy a $15 pair of drumsticks every time I had a session. But I'm getting back into it where it's like, just be careful and take care of these.
Okay.
Because it's a lot better. It's more natural. I don't know. If anyone's played with those aluminum sticks, they're really durable, but it doesn't feel like a real...
Yeah, what I like about them when I drum, I like how heavy they are. Like they hit the drum head a little bit better. Like
Sure.
It's thick. That's what I like about them. Now the ones that I use, I think it's called the speed metal.
Yeah, that's what I had. The speed metal ones, they were the most comfortable. They're real skinny, but which is funny because I don't know how to play speed metal drums.
Me either.
But
it's too hard.
That was the most comfortable for me, just coming from that transition of using like a lightweight like wooden stick into something made out of metal, essentially.
Newbie
Use
question.
the speed metal question.
What is speed metal drums?
like
drumming, like a speed metal drummer.
like death metal, grindcore, black metal, speed, like fast,
Super duper fast.
double bass, blast beats, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a speed metal drummer.
Yeah,
I don't know how to play
it's
speed metal drum.
Very, very complicated.
I just wondered.
Like a shout out to Handsome Prick. You've listened to Handsome Prick. Like that's very speed metalish, but that's grindy and punk too. But anything really just fast and speedy and technical and hard to keep up with. Like, what would you say? Like a beat per minute or beat per measure with that would be
Like a lot.
A lot.
Like 200.
Like 200.
220,
and
like double what
fast.
I'm capable of.
And fast. And transition back into your art a little bit, Nick.
Sure.
Your following, I know you have a really good following. How did that happen? And I mean, did it just happen organically or?
I kind of just started like making art because I wanted to make a book. I wanted to like illustrate a book. I had a story in mind and I wanted to like, that was the thing. And I thought, well, you have to learn how to make art before you can like, because that was the idea. Like Edward Gorey, I don't know if you're familiar with like Edward Gorey and the Addams, like the Addams Family guy, like that type of stuff. So I had to teach myself how to create art in order to complete the vision that I had, I guess. And I just started posting it. It had nothing to do with the story, just me teaching myself how to make art. And people were like into it. And that's like when I realized it doesn't have to have anything to do with what I was setting out to do. Like
Okay.
I was creating stuff that didn't have anything to do with this story, and people were into it. And it kind of took a life of its own as far as like just trying to make something that had some kind of connection to somebody and like, you know, appealed to somebody outside of like, you don't have to have the context of the story that I'm trying to create to understand what I'm doing visually, I guess. People just liked it, man. And that's kind of when I got hooked. That's when I was really like, oh, well, I could make art that, you know, I could just do whatever I want. And
people dig it.
Hopefully people dig it. Yeah. And it happened that way. I don't know.
That's the best thing.
I wish I could give some insight. People ask me that, oh, you make art. How did you get so many people to see your art?
It just
I don't know.
happens. Yeah. And
It just happens.
And that's a good feeling. Like if it's something
it's a great feeling.
you want to do and you love to do it and then everybody else.
There's nothing
loves it.
more validating than just drawing like a glorified stick figure. That's what I like self-deprecatingly call my art, you know? You're drawing like something on a page and people are like, oh, whatever. This is cool. I'm really into this. It just makes you want to make more, you know? And the original, the insight of the original plan is just, it's beyond that now, you know? And people are into it and I don't know how it happened. I don't know how to answer that question.
No, that's, you answered it. Now, I think maybe Sretton and Michael could agree. You have a very dark theme going on with your art. Do you have any influences, you know, like from childhood or something that helped you go in that darker direction? And
I don't know. I think everybody's experienced that type of loneliness and pain and stuff. But my whole thing is creating something. It comes from somewhere. It comes from my heart. It means something to me. But leaving it open-ended enough to where anyone can see it and kind of grab, you know, they could grab onto it. They could find it something. That's the most important thing. People will see something I made and say, well, what does this mean? Like, I don't even want to tell you. What does it mean to you? That's what's more important, you know? So that's really that's the goal of it. Sure, there's an inspiration behind every piece, but that is completely irrelevant to me. In the end, it becomes lost in the end. What's more important to me is making something kind of broad enough that people can come into and say, you know what I mean? Maybe I drew a drawing about my grandma dying, but to me it's about it's about a breakup or something, like whatever.
Yeah. And getting back into music, I noticed with your art maybe a little Tool influence in there. Like,
sure.
Like Tool
with
videos.
With the visual art?
Yeah, with the visual art.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was,
And do you listen to certain music while you're drawing?
I mean, Tool, for sure.
Okay. I could see it. You know, I think music puts you in a good artistic mindset, you know, before going into it. So are there any other bands? Like, I see Tool in your art.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got in a big kick for years and years. I was doing like, I would have like a show coming up where I had to create a certain amount of pieces and I would just lock in. There's this band called Oh Brother and I would just lock into them, man. They're so like melancholy and like dirty and like, yeah, I tell people, man, I feel like they're like shoveling up dirt with their guitars. They're just like this gritty, like moody, melancholy. And it's just perfect. Besides the fact that I love the band, if you're going to put an audio track to the stuff that I'm creating, I don't think I could think of anything better.
And did you've reached out to them and you've done art for them, I believe you told me?
Yeah, I did, man.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. Yeah, I went to see them. They had like this meet and greet type of thing. And I knew I was going to this, so I drew a picture of them and I sent it to them just like goofy, like, see you guys later, here's this drawing.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, they were all like acting like they were kind of obsessed with it, and they're like, make us more paintings and stuff and we'll use
Cool.
them. I haven't seen anything yet from them, but yeah, I saw them like 17 times in 1 year or something.
Oh, so you're a fanboy like that.
Insane. It was a fanboy like that. I was following them around and like, we went on vacation in Orlando the same time they played, like however many thousands of miles away, and I'm still like trying to catch their shows.
What's a really good album for everyone to check out by Oh Brother?
Their very first EP called A Death a Day.
Okay.
That's kind of how I got hooked. I don't know what the door for everybody else is, but that was certainly my door into it. And it progressively gets a little more poppy and mainstream like everything else does. But if you really want to get into some dirty, grimy,
I want to check it out.
Sad music.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, music doesn't always have to be, I don't know, sunshine, roses, puppies, and kittens.
It's never that for me.
All right, good. And let's go back into Tool. I know we share a fanboy status
Sure.
with Tool.
Yeah.
I've loved them since I was a kid. What's your favorite album by Tool?
Lateralis.
Lateralis.
I've had arguments with people. I think Lateralis is the greatest piece of art ever created. Visual, audio, whatever.
That was huge.
It's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece. That came out, I'll never forget, I think it came out either on my birthday or like a day before,
Yeah.
like May 15th,
Somewhere around
2001.
there. 2001 for sure.
Yeah. And I was really hyped out for it. And is it Schism was the main song?
That was a single, yeah.
Yeah, the single
Yeah.
with the cool bass line.
Sure.
And I'll never forget, like, I was dating this girl at the time. It was high school. It was like right when I graduated, and her mom, her mother, like, she got me, and my girlfriend, but they got me the CD and the poster.
Nice.
It was really cool, and I still have the poster. But speaking of art too, what is his name? The artist that did that,
Alex Gray.
Alex Gray. Thank you. And he's got
He's trippy,
crazy
man.
art. It's totally trippy. It's totally DMT all the time.
Yeah, no, right. Exactly.
Right.
He builds entire like structures based on weird, like, it's that weird like inner self. But I mean, he builds buildings shaped like those paintings on the Lateralis thing. It's totally nuts.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Buildings?
Yeah, you mean like these chapels? They're like weird.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
He's
Alex
into it.
Gray.
Whatever he's doing.
He's British too,
he's
isn't
in
he? Is he Brit?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
But no, I remember like one of my friends was telling me about him, and I was looking at his art. I was like, oh, that's Lateralis. Like,
Yeah.
it has that like
all a
scientific
vibe, yeah.
school book
Sure.
looking
Anatomy
at
type
the
of-
anatomy
Sure.
body parts. But
Sure.
Lateralis, what else? Like, what's your top three? So Lateralis is number one. By
Well,
Tool.
shoot, I mean, as far as studio albums go, they only have maybe 4 or 5. But if I had to put them in order, Lateralis, Inema, which came right before that. 10,000 Days is good.
Is that how you say it? Enema? How'd you say it? I always said
Enema?
enema.
Okay, so Inema is like a combination between enema and anema, I think.
Okay.
Which is some kind of like spiritual thing. It's like a spiritual cleansing. They combine some kind of spiritual anima with like a physical enema to
Yeah.
create the word enema. It's a totally made up
Remember
word.
the record or the album cover? It's just
Oh, of course. So bizarre.
It's so bizarre. Yeah.
After that, I 10,000 Days is their last release, which came out like 27 years ago or something, forever ago. And I didn't like that album until I read something where Maynard said, "This is our blues album,"
Is that what he said?
which at first I was like, well, that's ridiculous. But it is. It's so sad. And
'Cause it has
his mom died or something
Yeah,
around
and
it.
it was
Like
10,000 days. Like, I believe she had cancer or something. And
It's
it was
so
about the
sad.
10,000 days that.
I mean, it's a
before it
blues
died.
album. If Tool was going to make a blues album, it's 10,000 Days. And I couldn't appreciate that album until I heard that.
It took me a while. A story about that, I remember I purchased that album in Memphis. Like, I remember I was visiting family there, and I bought it in some mall in Memphis, and I liked it. With that album specifically, there's a lot of filler. Like,
Okay.
just noise and them jamming and whatnot. And
Sure.
that's what kind of turns me off with Tool at times. When this new album comes out, we'll get into that.
Oh,
I hope
please,
that- I
let's
hope-
get
yeah.
into that.
I hope there's less filler. Like, just give me, like, back to Undertow days, like, just give me some straight up
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah. I feel
3
like
to 4 or 5 minutes, and I don't know.
I feel like they were still trying to be something. Like at this point, obviously we know they do whatever they want. They release an album every 10 years or whatever it is. Like they do whatever they want. So 10,000 Days, I agree with you. There's like a lot of BS in the middle of there, but
More towards the end too.
they're
remember?
into that. Like maybe we're not into that, but they're like, that's what they wanted to play and that's what they wanted to hear. I respect that, I guess, as a musician. Like, I don't know, maybe not everyone's going to be into it, but they wouldn't have, trust me, it wouldn't have been on that record if they didn't want to play it or hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Which where when Undertow and even Opiate, their EP, they recorded like half that thing live, which is crazy for a band to release their first record.
It is.
And half of it is live in somebody's apartment.
That's my favorite. Like
insane.
I own two Tool albums on wax or vinyl.
Sure.
And it's Opiate and it's Undertow.
Yeah, I have both of those. Are the only two I have as well.
You know, and like Lateralis is always there, and it's like really cool, like like hologram reflective
sure, and
artwork.
it's $95.
Yeah, and then and then it's
right.
like $45. I'm like,
Yeah, right.
But I do love that album. I would say my favorite Tool albums. I'll go with Undertow, then Opiate, then Enema.
But you're kind of like a punk rock metal guy. That's
I
why. I'm more of like a atmospheric,
I love
weird,
my atmospheric too.
But that makes sense to me, I guess. You
Like
know?
from knowing me a little bit.
Sure.
Like, yeah, but just that structure and the bass tone, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Great drums and great rhythm section.
That's what
like
it's all about.
That first bass player, I don't know his name, but he did
Paul something.
Yeah, but I liked his bass tone because he was playing with the pick, and then it was very, I don't know.
It was heavy, man.
It was heavy, but
was
like
heavy.
it wasn't a low bass tone. Like he used a lot of chorus and a lot of treble,
Sure.
and a lot of mids, and it really stuck out. Like Sober, everybody knows the intro to Sober,
Of course.
with the bass,
Yeah.
So shout out to Tool. Let's get into what do you think's going on? I did listen to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, I don't know.
And
What is
Maynard
that
was
about?
on there.
Oh, yeah?
And talking about the new Tool
He did
album.
not talk about the new Tool
Yes, he
album.
did.
Really?
And this is Maynard's story. So whoever's listening, don't throw stones at me if I don't get this
Well,
correct.
wait a minute, though. That's the last story you want to hear regarding a new
Right,
Tool album.
right.
But anyway, I'm
I
listening.
listened to it too.
You
I
did?
can verify what
Okay.
Joe says. Yeah, I listened to it too. I think it was like back in October, November.
Yeah, but
Okay,
Maynard
what did he have to say?
Maynard were saying that Justin Chancellor, the bass player, Danny Carey, and Adam Jones,
They made a record.
they
without
made a
him.
record, but they're like so, I don't know, obsessive compulsive. Like they can't finish a track in a certain amount of time, and when they do, and they send it to Maynard, like they'll call him back and be like, "Oh, we're gonna redo it again." And Maynard's just like, "I just wrote lyrics to that.
I cannot.
Now you guys want to switch up the structure?" Like Maynard was just like venting, right, Stratton? Like
Yeah.
along those
That's
lines.
kind of amazing because I get that. I can't believe he was that honest about it, like
was.
publicly.
He was. He really was. And he's just like, I don't know what to do anymore. He's like, I'm just going to wait. And when they get the music ready and everything is done, then I'll do the lyrics. Because he seemed frustrated. Like, hey, I did the lyrics to this one particular track. I put myself in this place. And then, everyone's switching it up. He's like, I ain't got time for that.
That completely changes my whole perspective on my opinion on that album.
Really?
I mean, my
On the upcoming album.
yeah, my stance was kind of maybe the best thing for Tool right now is to just release an instrumental record without him. I mean, you look at Maynard and he's got 70 projects going on, and he's making wine, and he's making albums by himself, and he's in these other bands, and Perfect Circle
Perfect
just
Circle,
released it out, or they're getting ready to release it.
Yeah,
out.
a lot of singles.
And I just thought, I mean, you see stuff from these guys. They're in the studio like it's 40 hours a week for a year trying to make a record. And I always kind of felt like we were waiting on him, but maybe it's the other way around.
That's
I don't
Maynard's
know.
side of the
That
story.
That changes everything.
Now,
for me.
I haven't heard like Adam Jones, the guitarist, or their side, but that's what Maynard had to say on the Rogan podcast.
Wow, that surprises me.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, because I remember last year I check out the Needle Drop a lot. I don't know if you ever watch Anthony Fantano and the Needle Drop.
No.
He's great.
Yeah?
He does album reviews. He turns me on to all kinds of music.
What
He's
is this?
Great.
It's on YouTube.
On
It's
YouTube,
YouTube.
You
Yeah.
guys love YouTube.
Oh
don't you?
yeah.
I love YouTube.
I love it. Michael, do you love YouTube?
No.
Michael, do you
He
watch?
reads books all day.
Not to get off track, but do you watch any of the National Live on YouTube? Are you sure? What?
I'm sorry, I'm busy right now.
Oh, okay.
Ask me another question later.
Okay, I will. But yeah, that's the Tool story. That's the Tool story, Nick. So
Wow, I
we'll
have
see
to
what happens.
reevaluate my entire.
Yeah, and another thing too about Tool, real quick.
Sure.
Have you seen him live? How many times?
yeah.
When and where? Let's get into a little live Tool.
Okay, 3 times. I saw him twice on the Lateralis tour and once on the 10,000 Days tour.
Where'd you see
So
him?
like 2001, I saw him like twice, 2001, 2002, and then I saw him again in like 2009, 2008, whenever 10,000 Days came out.
Okay, I got to see him too. Not to cut you off, but
Sure.
in 2001, was it at the Allstate with ISIS?
No, they played with Meshuggah both times,
Wow.
which I know people love that band now. When I saw them in 2001, they weren't like, I hadn't heard of them yet. I was also very young in 2001, I guess. How old was I in 2001?
I don't know. You're like my age.
Okay.
Okay.
not
We were like
I'm not gonna
early
do the math.
20s.
Early 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was. And
Handsome as ever.
we kind of just made fun of them.
Open to
Meshuggah.
interpretation.
I mean, I know people love that band. I'm not in that band. I know they're like super crazy, like complicated, whatever.
Okay.
We just made fun of them.
And then in 2006, did you see them in Chicago? Tool in Chicago?
I saw them at the Sears Center in Hoffman Estates. So I guess
Okay.
that was probably their Chicago date for that year.
Okay, because I got to see him too that year, and it was really cool. It's right when 10,000 Days came out, and it wasn't at Chicago Theater, but it was at the Chicago Auditorium.
You might have seen them in those weird. They'll do these things where they'll tour for like a year after a record comes out, but then they'll play like 6 or 8 random.
It was
ass
the
shows in
promo though.
between.
It was the promo for
Yeah?
10,000 Days.
That's interesting.
And it was the hardest ticket to get, and my dad got it for me for my birthday.
Nice.
So my dad and I went to it, and it wasn't Chicago Theater because that's the big one with like you always see in like the Chicago
Sure, of course.
promo. So I think it was the Chicago Auditorium, and I believe it was the first time they opened it for a live show since like a Hendrix thing.
Wow.
Like it had this really like dramatic theatric vibe there.
Well, that's perfect.
And I remember Maynard was wearing a cowboy hat and like tight
Something
jeans
weird.
and cowboy
Something
boots.
weird, yeah.
And then Danny Carey was wearing a full Lakers Kobe
Always.
Bryant outfit.
I've never seen him not playing a full Lakers Kobe Bryant
Right?
outfit.
And then like Justin Chancellor was doing his thing and Adam Jones was doing his thing, but the way the whole stage was set up, it was different. And I'll never forget my dad, like he's an old school rock and roll dude. He's been
Sure.
to a bunch of shows, and it's really cool to go with your pops on your birthday
Yeah,
to
of
Tool,
course.
right? But he was like, I've never been to a show where everyone stood up the whole time. I'm like, yeah, that's how we do it.
They're in awe, man.
That's how we do it. But another band too, transition, Radiohead.
Yeah,
I know you're a big Radiohead fan.
I am a big Radiohead fan.
What's some of your favorite albums by Radiohead? Like if your top 3.
I'm really into the Kid A, OK Computer era stuff, where it was kind of like, it was right in. To me, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but to me it was right in between them being like they're like, we're a rock band, we're gonna make rock and roll music, into them like transitioning into some just weird shit. What we're doing, whatever we want to do stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that era is like right in the middle of that, and it's perfect, man. It's perfect because I love both. I mean, show me like a straight up 4 to the floor rock band, and I'm in. But then you want to show me like weird experimental, just like pressing buttons on a computer and seeing what sound they make type of stuff. I'm into that too. And to me, like the OK Computer, Kid A, it was right. It's that perfect sweet spot of them like transitioning between those two.
Yeah, and just flipping it upside down and being artists and like, hey, we're gonna go
Right.
this direction. And I think a lot of that album, Kid A, after OK Computer, was Thom Yorke, and then for everyone to jump on board, like the rest of the band, not
Sure.
to take anything away from any of the other
Sure.
musicians, but yeah, that was a very crazy gamble, but it did work. And I don't think Kid A or Amnesiac or
Amnesiac, I like that too. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Record.
Amnesiac's
Yeah,
the
that's
shit.
kind of weird. That's when they started getting a little weirder, right? Do I have that order
Yeah,
messed up? That came out after those two.
yeah, I think, Amnesiac were the B-sides of Kid A.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, and it was really experimental. And as far as Radiohead goes, records, I have OK Computer, and then Kid A and Amnesiac are awesome because they're 10 inches. They're not, they're
wow.
not 12
Yeah,
inches.
sure.
And then I do have Moonshaped Pool, and that was the
That's
most
the
recent.
perfect era. Oh, Moonshade Pool. What
That
is,
just
I don't
came
even know
out.
what that is.
You haven't heard that album yet?
No.
All right, here's my order. Here's my order of awesome Radiohead albums. OK Computer.
Yeah.
And that's in my top 10 favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, no, me too. Same.
Without a doubt.
Totally.
That's an amazing album. Everybody's got to check that out. Number 2 is In Rainbows.
Yeah, no, I like In Rainbows.
And Rainbows is just, it's really good. Remember, and they did that weird marketing thing where they released it online
whatever
and you could
want
pay.
or whatever.
It was all
Remember?
free.
Yeah.
It was basically free.
It could be free if you didn't want to pay.
if you didn't want to pay. And I remember
if you didn't think it was worth anything.
you were the free guy. You only like.
I'm the free guy.
Okay, I gave him $10, and here's the thing: like the average price was 10.
Money bags.
Money bags, Gucci baby, yeah, Gucci wallet.
What is Radiohead worth to me? $0.
$0.
That's right.
That's right. You're a hard buy.
I deleted the files as soon as I downloaded them.
Oh my God. Are you a nihilist? And then my third favorite album is Moonshaped Pool. And that
Wow.
just came
I've
out
never even heard that.
in 2016. It is amazing.
Yeah?
It's very somber. It's definitely like, you know, when you wake up early in the morning and the snow's reflecting.
Sure.
The sun's reflecting off the snow. It's
That's Hail to
pure-
the Thief to me, but I kind of get bored of Hail to the Thief.
Yeah,
I know people love that record and it sounds
really,
great and it's
I thought it was pretty disconnected.
super sad, but yeah, it doesn't work for me.
There's some jams.
some jams.
Phantom Limb was garbage. Was it
I
Phantom
don't know
Limb?
what is that. I don't even know what that. I
Yeah.
call myself a Radiohead fan. I
That
don't even
was,
know what half the
um,
records are.
I don't. Is it? I believe it's Phantom Limb. It's something like that.
That was a single by the Shins, wasn't it?
Was it?
Or an album by the Shins.
Well, all I know about that is the
They
recording
all sound the
process.
same, don't they?
What they did is they recorded a sound, like the guitarist would make a sound and they would record it. The drummer would hit something. They'd hit something on the keyboard, and then Thom Yorke mixed it all together.
No, I love that.
And
I
made
mean,
an
I don't know what it
album.
sounds like, but I love.
There's like
that
one
idea.
song I like on it, but I don't know. It was weak. Like it just
Really?
wasn't. Yeah, check it out though. That came
No,
out.
I guess I will.
That came out before Moonshaped Pool. Moonshaped
Okay.
Pool came out in like 2016, but
Wow, I'm so out of the loop. I
but
don't even know what
dude,
is.
that album, that was my favorite album of 2016. It's
Wow.
that good.
Okay,
It's that good. Did you ever see Radiohead live?
never.
Never. I got to see him once, and it was at the Midwest Amphitheater or whatever that's called. It's got a new name every year, and it was a decent show, but the sound there on that main stage is kind of suspect. And with them doing the weird shit that they do, the sound wasn't that
Sure.
great.
No, that makes
But I
sense.
love Radiohead. I would love to see him inside. You know,
Yeah.
big time.
Sure.
Have you ever read into how he creates his lyrics?
No,
No, it's a true story.
yeah, what-
I'm curious.
Chuck Klosterman, a popular he writes about pop culture. He interviewed Thom Yorke one time, and the big thing about him is he purposely makes his lyrics not make sense. He just puts words together, which kind of parallels kind of what you're referring to in your art.
Sure.
Like he's creating art, but everybody could interpret it differently because it's purposely.
I think it's brilliant, but I get mad at that sometimes.
Yeah.
Even though I just said that sometimes I do that.
Yeah.
That angers me a little bit.
Kurt did that a lot too. You know, Kurt Cobain. with
Yeah,
Nirvana.
and I think I told you how much of a huge Van Morrison fan I am, and I always I listened to Van Morrison's Moondance like it was church, and I read a couple years ago that he made that record. He wasn't like his last record was his first real record on a label. Nobody bought it, so he wrote that entire record Moondance, just trying to make music that he knew people would listen to.
Okay.
God, what a disappointment! You know what I mean? To
But it's a
grow
great
up-
album.
Oh, it's great. And you grow up thinking this guy's like some kind of musical, lyrical genius, and then you read that he was just trying to please people and just write songs that people would like.
But I liked him.
That's bogus.
It's
I
bo-
like it too, and I just told you I tried to do that with my art, but
Right.
it's bogus, man.
I love Van Morrison. My dad was and is a huge Van Morrison.
I mean, that's why,
fan.
right? Our parents.
It's all
loved
about
it.
your parents, you
Yeah.
know, and like what they turn you on to. But yeah, he's a great songwriter.
A big jerk.
Is he?
Yeah, I heard
What?
real jerk.
Is he a bigger jerk?
Honest,
Is he a bigger jerk than Morrissey?
I've heard that he's really, really hard to talk to. Yeah.
Don't stop.
These
You're
are-
shattering my.
What
See,
I've-
first, I'm like my favorite Van Morrison record was just written to make money, and now you're telling me he's an asshole too.
Yes.
Well, see, I kind of disagree about that whole him writing it for the masses in a way, because you end up assuming that you were writing for pop sensibilities. So whatever's safe, right?
Well, I think that's okay though.
Right.
A little bit.
I think it's okay too. But I think you could still write something that resonates with most people or create art that resonates with most people. It's rare because how many artists are there like him?
Sure.
But like he can write something that maybe appeals to everyone, but say the theme is death, something that nobody can escape from, somebody that everyone eventually throughout their life
Speak
is
for
going to
yourself.
have, other than the vampire over here. But everybody's going to have this experience and people deal with it differently. So if he writes certain themes, they might resonate with everybody just on some like deeper level, or just he might just know how to hit the right notes that hits everybody and it not be poppy at all. Or
Sure.
maybe it is poppy.
I guess.
Is it pop though?
Listen, I guess my gripe with it is that he knows, and the fact that he knows turns me off a little bit.
Okay, I
like
get it.
with my art, I'll make something and I'll say, well, this is interesting, and I'm putting a lot of my art has a drawing or a painting next to a phrase or a sentence, and I'm thinking, well, this could go a million ways, and sometimes I'll spend a lot of time on something thinking, this is really going to connect with people, and there's no. I just don't get anything out of it.
Right.
And then sometimes I'll be like, well, here's some, I let my dog out to pee in the morning and I had this thought about my dog peeing, but I'm putting it in a different context just because I'm going to put something out there and people will be like, whoa, that explains my whole life, man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a little bit of a better job by not understanding what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? If Van Morrison is like, I know this key is going to sound good.
Yeah.
And I know that people are going to appreciate this lyric. So I'm going to put it on a record. Like, screw you, man.
What you're what you're sort of doing is making an argument for the random lyrics style of writing things, because
I feel like
somebody
that's better. Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that.
because it's more mysterious. You don't know the
Sure,
source.
sure.
You might assume that he says it's random lyrics. He says that but what if he actually did consciously, like on purpose, put these words together and just say that it came out of nowhere?
Oh, now you're messing with me, man.
So-
I don't understand that at all.
That's a Jedi mind trick.
I don't like
Jedi
that at
mind
all.
trick right
I don't want to
there.
hear that song.
What about Sigur Rós, and they literally made up their own language?
No,
Yeah.
okay, but that's wonderful.
It's really good, though.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
A lot of these like mumblecore bands that with just like meandering guitars and you can't really understand what the vocalist is saying. Sign me up, man. I don't need to know what he's saying too.
Yeah, just look into it because I like a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of hardcore, death metal, black metal, and you really don't know what they're saying. But when you look into the lyric books and, look in the lyrics and follow it, like they're saying some cool stuff.
Are you
But
ever disappointed though? I mean, that's not really my gig. I'm not really into that kind of stuff, but are you ever like, oh yeah, I'm totally into this song, and then he's just talking about like eating a cheeseburger or something? You're like,
chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some
Right.
like, I don't know, cookie cutter, cartoonish death metal things, like a crazy gore horror movie that's
Sure.
kind of cheesy, but I've talked about this band a million times on different episodes, but like Converge, Jane Doe, like it's very poetic, it's very personal, breakup relationship type stuff, and to bring that poetic emotion to a very abrasive style of music.
no, I'm with you there.
It's really
I feel like it could
cool.
go either way. What is this dude saying? And then you find out what he's saying, and you're like, oh
Right.
wow,
And
man. Or you could be like, oh wow, that's
Yeah, it's garbage. And we'll get into like transition into this with the Deftones because Chino, his lyrics, especially White Pony, he kind of got away from, being younger and angry and like break up and those kind of lyrics or stuff about his
Sure.
wife. But
Sure.
with White Pony, that's when he was painting a picture as far as throwing the paint against the canvas and what comes out comes
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Like I don't know if you've ever looked into any of the lyrics off the White Pony album, but like Digital Bath, for example, like he wrote that when he was really drunk, and it has a very vulnerable, sex-driven
Sure,
vibe.
sure.
But really, what it's all about is throwing a radio into a tub of a girl, like a groupie, and electrocuting her.
Did he
and
do
killing
that?
her.
That's
No,
horrifying.
It is horrifying.
That's a
but-
fantasy.
Yeah, it was like
Oh.
one of his weird fantasies, but he wrote it when he was drunk. And like, if you listen to Digital Bath, like you would never know that.
Well, maybe that's why I love White Pony so much, because I don't know what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I like the older stuff. We talked about that a bit before, like White Pony and Back. I love that stuff. And you're right. He was like I talk about, just to kind of parallel the two a little bit. Like Glassjaw, that guy was really angry at women. And you can tell by
In the
listening to
early
his
stuff,
lyrics
yeah.
that he's really angry at women. But it's cool, man. I mean, I dig it a lot. You understand where he's coming from, but it's a little sophomoric. Now we're adults and we're like,
Yeah,
why was
and-
that guy so pissed off at
And
girls?
he
But-
even mentioned that too recently in an interview. They're like, "Oh, you had a lot of misogynistic."
But we all felt that way at
vocals.
some point.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, man. I love it. I really do. And Deftones was maybe the same way. And then White Pony, like was kind of the peak. We said that, we talked about that earlier. Like,
they reached their peak.
I think that's kind of where he started to get weird. That's cool, man. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Like, I've never heard it phrased the way you just phrased it, to
Yeah.
where he was kind of just throwing paint against the canvas and
Yeah,
seeing what people made out of it, because
and that's what he was doing.
that's what that record is to me. Like
Yeah.
those songs mean something to me.
like
they might mean
Knife
something
Party,
different.
like the in White Pony, the term in general, like they were going through a huge cocaine
Sure.
phase at that time,
Yeah.
and that's what they referred to cocaine was at that time was White Pony, and then Knife Party was a song about everybody brought their own knife to the recording session and they did cocaine
fucked
off
up,
the
yeah.
knife,
No, that's-
so. Yeah, there's just all this weird stuff, and then like Change in the House of Flies, like that's all over,
Sure,
like
sure.
lyrically, but
How important is lyrics to you?
very important.
Well,
That's a great sentence.
Thanks, Michael. I mean,
Took him a half hour.
how long,
well, I had to
What-
interject. It's been a while, so I had to really push it out there because
I had to break the ice.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it's important.
Listen, if I hear a really, really bad lyric,
Yeah.
it'll turn me off to the whole thing completely.
This is gonna probably derail everything.
Okay.
Keep going.
I always enjoyed the Pina Colada song.
No,
If you
did
like
not.
Pina Colada,
okay.
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
But you know what the lyrics are behind the Pina Colada song?
Yeah, we all know what that song's about.
Yeah. So
Pretty straightforward.
yeah.
I don't like pina coladas, but go ahead.
Right, he's trying to. Him and his wife are both trying to. They're on vacation together.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're
right,
both
right.
trying to find someone to screw around with, and they
To
find each
escape,
other.
yeah, and then they
right,
find
because
each
they
other.
like the same things. That's real. I get that. I like the sentiment of it, but I think those lyrics are terrible. But I mean, I like the idea of it. It's a good idea.
Man, we're talking about like deep music. You're talking about pina colada.
That's kind of deep.
It is deep.
It takes a little bit of lyrical skill
It
to
does.
to weave that
I'll give you
tapestry
that.
of that story.
I'm using that extreme, but
very extreme.
I would never be featured on Musically Meditated because I am not.
You are now.
You are now, Bubba.
I'm hanging out. That's all I'm doing.
No, you know.
But
you like good music. You do.
I like
Don't
the
sell
National.
yourself.
Starts and ends with the National.
I know.
But I'm saying I don't catch myself looking at the lyrics enough, and I take a sound and I really enjoy it, and that's all I really care about. Maybe I'm doing a disservice to myself.
No, there's some value to that, and I agree with you. If I hear something that sounds good, I mean, they could be whatever. Like I said, they could be singing about a cheeseburger. I don't care.
But even that National dude, I know you like him a lot. He's got a cool voice. He's got to be singing and talking about something deep.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really I don't really follow his
book,
lyrics.
You're
yeah.
the book guy, though. That's kind of that surprises me. Like you read all the time. You're a professor. You're a teacher. You have a bookstore. It
You're
surprises.
pretentious.
Yeah, you're very pretentious. You're sarcastic.
Super annoying.
Apparently,
Let's do this. Let's do this.
Apparently, I'm an asshole. Okay,
No, Michael.
keep going.
No, I'm just joking, but that kind of surprises me because you are a reader
Yeah.
and a book dude. You should really look into more lyrics.
Yeah, I use music as a kind of drown stuff out, and I just kind of
As
enjoy
a distraction?
it as a distraction.
Oh, that's horrible.
I'm a horrible. I'm an asshole. I'm a horrible person. Let me step away from the microphone.
You're real ugly.
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right. But back into
Sorry, guys.
No, it's good. Nick,
Yes, sir.
we were talking earlier. You've had different bands.
Yeah.
And I brought up the Cure Pornography as far as probably the darkest, most gloomy album ever. And I've brought it up on
Yeah.
past episodes.
I've heard you say before it's a good winter album. and
Oh,
it
it's my favorite,
absolutely is.
my most favorite winter
Yeah,
album.
totally.
I do have it on vinyl. There's really cool YouTube clips too, like
Okay.
of their live stuff back then, and it's just weird. Like Robert Smith's wearing like this weird
Being
pink
weird.
cashmere like sweater, and like he wasn't
Lipstick smeared all
yeah,
over
but
his
like
face.
that's like when they first started to do the goth
Sure.
stuff. And you were telling me earlier you were in a Cure cover band
One time only.
one time at the Franklin House.
Halloween night
On
at
Halloween
Franklin
night.
House.
That is so
At
cool.
Franklin House.
How did that go?
Oh, it was great.
Okay.
Oh, we had I guess I could kind of put the scene out a little bit. We had like 5 or 6 weeks to learn 15 Cure songs or whatever it was. There ended up being like 7 or 8 people in the band. We had a saxophone player. We had like just a bunch of people in the band. And we never had one rehearsal in which all 7 of us were there.
Wow.
We had random combinations of a drummer and a bass player and a singer and a guitar player and a saxophone player. So we kind of all just came together on that night and played together, which is nerve-wracking and sounds horrific. But I think you tap into something when you're playing stuff like that. People are just so, everyone's singing along, everyone's into it, man. It's not what you expect. You're nervous about performing these songs in a way that are going to be respectful. You love the Cure. Everybody loves the Cure. You want to play these Cure songs and you want to sound good. But at the end of the day, people just want to sing along and like have a good time.
Did you guys do any of the old like darker gloomy stuff like from 17 Seconds or
No,
Pornography?
you know what, man?
Or was it all the pop stuff?
Yeah, we played the hits, man.
Not wrong with that. I love the Cure.
Yeah, I mean that was the
see 'em.
excitement of it though. That's what people wanted to hear. You're
Yeah.
at a bar on Halloween night. Like,
Yeah.
you
That
wanna
sounds
sing
so
along.
awesome.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
How long ago was this, Nick?
This was, man, I'm gonna say 2015, but it may have been 2014.
You might have not forgotten how to play a lot of those songs still.
I mean,
Little
look,
muscle memory.
Look, man, as a drummer, I love the Cure, but as a drummer, it's not.
Rough.
No.
Is it boring?
It was the easiest job I ever had. It wasn't boring because look, man, I'm the type of I tell people all the time, hey, we should jam. Let's play drums. I'm like, okay, I just want you to know I never play the same thing twice. Like I'm kind of like a jammer guy. I don't listen to like a lot of jam band music, but that's kind of how I play, So yeah, I'll learn the bones of these Cure songs, but
That's
Put a little
awesome.
lemon
don't get
twist
mad
on
at me if you look over and I'm just fucking doing my own thing over here. And that's kind of what
breaking
happened.
drumsticks over in
But
the
they're all
corner.
similar enough. Like there was times
Yeah.
where they would look over and they're like, "Okay, we're changing a song now," and I'm like, "That's cool. Just keep playing.
Okay.
It's all good." It's
Who
all
sang? Was he able to pull off Robert Smith? Like,
he did his own thing. Josh Krimke sang. He was the singer of my band Desk Rabbit,
okay.
and he does not sound like Robert Smith at all. But he's a great singer and a great frontman, and he just did his own thing with it. And
That's
like I
cool.
said, at the
That's
end
cool,
of the
yeah.
day, people were they wanted to. By the time they figured out what we were doing, they just wanted to sing along to Cure songs.
That's badass. Yeah.
So it didn't have to sound like.
He doesn't
Robert
have
Smith.
to sound like him, but that would be a really hard band to cover. The Cure. Like,
Look, man, we
With
played
Robert-
Cure songs, but we didn't necessarily sound like the Cure. We had
That's
a
the-
saxophone. There were weird parts where we hadn't rehearsed the parts, and we would look at the saxophone player, and she would play like a 3-minute sax solo over our Cure rhythm. You know what I mean? It was like it wasn't
And everyone listening loved it.
everybody. They just knew they knew
Yeah.
what was going on. They
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
up on it real quick.
cool.
We didn't show up like we're gonna play 15 Cure songs. We
Right.
just showed up and started playing, and by the second or third song, everyone was like, "Well, how can we know all the lyrics to these?"
That was like an improv jam almost, right?
I mean,
you guys
it really
practiced a
was.
little bit, but that
Sure.
sounds really cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Now, let's transition to Hum a little bit. Now,
Yeah, let's do that.
Jason Summerhill and I, we talked about
Sure.
Hum a little bit, and you shared something with me. It was with Desk Rabbit, right? Now,
Desk Rabbit, yeah.
who from Hum helped you record that album?
Matt Talbot, we recorded at Matt Talbot's studio. He's the singer, guitar player at Hum.
Okay.
He has a studio, and I actually think you and Jason briefly touched on his studio. It's like Southern Illinois somewhere. I don't know, 3-4 hour drive. That was a big deal to me, man. Being like a lifelong fan of that band, finding out it is a studio, finding out it's kind of affordable to go like record there. The cool thing about it was there's an apartment above the studio. You pay a couple extra bucks. You get to stay in this apartment above the studio, and like hang out with this guy all weekend. And it went into it just like it's like a dream. You just want to hang out with this guy or whatever. But by the end of the weekend, he was just there. He was another
Regular dude.
regular musician guy recording music with us. It was crazy. By far, like the funnest weekend of my life.
Awesome.
And we didn't
Awesome.
do anything but, we tracked for like 12, 14 hours a day, and then we'd order a pizza with the dude from Hum, and like, it was just awesome, man.
Have you ever? Did you get to see them live too? Like, have you ever?
Yeah, I saw him one time at Millennium Park. It was a free show, and there were 20 people there. I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
That's cool
it
though.
was crazy.
We don't need a lot of people.
No, you don't. And it was everything you hoped it would be. You know, these guys, they don't play together that. I mean, they don't play live. You wonder how much they rehearse because then they get on stage and it's like 1994 all over again.
Right, and they rock it.
Oh,
like
it's crazy.
I just love their guitar tone.
Yeah, man.
You know, like with the drums too. Like we talked about that with Jason
Sure.
and I. But something about that guitar tone, it was just like Smashing Pumpkins. Heavy, but even heavier, right?
Yeah, I mean
There was something.
I think that's a lot. That's overseen by a lot of like going back to the Tool thing. You know, like that's what that band is about. Really, I mean they're like a proggy, like super clean sounding metal band, whatever you want to call them. But that's really what it's about. It's finding that
Thickness, that meat and potatoes.
Yeah, man.
Right.
That's what it is. And there's a way to get all that meat and potatoes, like out of your rhythm section. And still have your guitar doing something super, super interesting.
Yeah, cool landscapes. And to go, we're getting off track, but we brought them a little bit earlier. The new Glassjaw album,
Yeah.
Material
that's what it's all
Control,
about.
like they're killing it on that. Like that rhythm section with the bass and the drums being the forefront
100%.
and awesome, and the
Yeah.
meat and potatoes, and then Justin Beck's doing crazy awesome guitar stuff,
Sure.
but it's somewhat in the back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like an afterthought almost. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of my
Me too.
that's my jam, man.
Me too.
Get into a space where like your rhythm section is just telling you where to go, and maybe you're paying attention to the vocalist or the lyrics, maybe you're not. It's not important, but
Yeah, because Daryl's vocals on that album too are somewhat in the back. Like they fill up the room.
No, I love that. I feel like Tool is that way too. I don't want to
Yeah.
keep coming back to them, but they're that way too, and they even set up live that way with Maynard in the back. Like, it's not that important. I mean, it's important, but consider it another instrument in the mix somewhere. And if it's low in the mix sometimes, like, that's okay. Maybe you're supposed to be paying attention to something else.
And talking Tool, talking Deftones, talking ISIS.
Yeah.
We'll get into Palms a little
Palms,
bit. And
yeah.
for those of you that don't know about Palms, that is ISIS the band, but with Chino from the Deftones
Essentially,
singing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think Aaron Turner was the singer of ISIS and played guitar. I think he's the only one
That's not involved.
that's not in Palms.
Okay.
They kind of just replaced him with Chino, and it
Okay.
wasn't a bad idea.
No, it
it
was
sounds
great.
really good.
And there's some cool recording like history behind that. They were at, I don't know, I believe it was some sort of beach house or whatever, and they recorded all of Chino's vocals in a closet. Like
Hey,
he just
man.
came there for the weekend.
Really?
He had his notepad or whatever, and that's how they recorded his vocals.
Wow.
And I do have I got the cassette from Robotic Empire. They're a really cool record label.
Yeah.
And I bought the cassette like a straight up hipster.
Hey, man,
You know,
if you have a cassette player,
and I do.
you should buy the cassette.
And it's nice and thick. Like, remember back in the day, you would want a cassette player with your sound system because
Dude,
the bass
we're
was
talking
better.
about tone. We're talking about like rhythm sections, drum and bass and tone, and you don't want to listen to a cassette player? I mean, that's what it's about.
Right.
Just tape,
Just the nice
lowness, thickness.
But that Palms, it's an EP technically. That's some crazy music. Like that's something good to like meditate to, or
Sure.
just a long walk on the beach with your
Sure.
old lady, or walk your dog. But it's a really, really cool album.
I mean, yeah, that's how I feel about ISIS. Like, put them on,
But they're not doing.
you have somewhere to go, and you put them on, and you're just like,
But there's nothing heavy on the Palms thing with all the ISIS.
no,
dudes.
that's true. That's true.
It's like more. I don't know how to describe it. Just like I don't know.
It's like, it's shiny and like
Yeah.
it's a little more shiny and a little more like
Just a lot of reverb,
blissful
and
yeah.
and blissful. It's a great.
It's a clean sounding record.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think they've ever performed live
Oh, I don't know.
or anything like that, and I don't know if they're gonna come out with another album. But that's definitely a gem. Let's get into a little Victor Wooten.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome bass player.
Yeah, no, he's incredible.
And what were some of his groups you were talking about earlier? Like I don't remember his.
Well, I only know Vic Wooten from Béla Fleck and the Flecktones.
Okay.
Béla Fleck is like I think he might play guitar, but he's primarily like a banjo type of guy, and it's like I don't know. I guess maybe it's bluegrass. I don't know, like bluegrassy, jazzy
Jazz.
type of. Yeah, dude. No, you would love it, Mike.
Victor
It's
Wooten
crazy.
is like the best bass player.
No, I agree.
Like right now, I mean, stylistic, it could be debatable, but phew, he's the man.
No, I agree 100%. Well, that was the thing about the Flecktones too. Like everyone in that band was just so on top of their game. They would kind of just take turns. I mean, we're talking about like, what are you going to pay attention to, and what are you getting into? And we're listening to rhythm sections and we're trying to figure out lyrics and stuff. But with a band like the Flecktones, they're just taking turns showing off. I'm okay with that, man. As a musician, like, if you're good, man, show me how good you are. And that was that band. You had the dude, man, I forget his name, like Jeff Martin or something. He'd be playing like 2 or 3 saxophones at one time because he can. It sounds cool and he can do it.
You're like 2 steps away from Dave Matthews, guys.
Uh-oh.
No, stop. Stop. Please check.
Nick says stop. Don't give Stratton an
I
avenue
hear
to
jam band.
No,
jam
I hear
band.
Béla Fleck
No.
and the Flecktones.
No, they're not.
He hears old style. He hears
jam
Wrigley
band.
I hear
Field.
brass instruments.
He hears.
So much.
I hear
He
fraternity
might wear his
parties.
pink polo.
Listen, if anybody is listening to this and they're
Salmon, my
familiar with
bad,
both
salmon.
the Flecktones and the Dave Matthews Band, I mean, you're going to be in the witness protection program pretty soon if you keep talking shit like that, my friend.
Not on the same pedestal.
No.
And what as far as bass players go, like iconic bass players, Jaco, how do you say the
Yeah.
last name? Pastorius
Pastorius, yeah.
and Weather Report.
He was
Awesome
just wild.
jazz.
Yeah, he was just wild. man.
Wild, man.
There's like footage of him just like freaking out on stage. I don't know.
And he was homeless for a little bit, and I believe he died on the streets of Miami. I mean, he was.
Look, man, that creates the best kind of art. I mean,
It does.
If you're like strung out and homeless, and then you have an opportunity to be on stage with your instrument,
I think he drank a little bit too much,
Hey,
but it wasn't
man.
like a drug thing. But Jaco,
It was
he had
good
that
for us.
fretless. He had that fretless jazz bass,
yeah,
and
that's
he
that's
he
a whole
was-
nother level of like.
Like he played one whole song, like one of his own solos, with the bass just laying on the stage floor. There's cool YouTube stuff.
I love that stuff so much.
Like Jaco was the man.
Just weird. Just be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, you've learned, you've practiced your craft, your instrument or your art. You've practiced it so long, and you've gotten enough people interested into it. Now just go do something weird.
Right.
Just put your bass on the ground and make a bunch of weird noises.
and do
like,
yeah.
I love that
But it
so
went well,
much.
like because he would always do like weird, just harmonics. Jaco
Yeah.
always had like
Sure.
cool harmonics with his
Sure.
bass, and he was just always doing some.
Did
some
you
really
see that?
crazy things?
There's some movie.
About
some-
Jaco?
Yeah,
Really?
I think it's on Netflix.
Stratton, do you know Jaco?
No, why does that sound familiar?
I
the
wish I knew
movie?
what it was called, but it's like his whole life and career, and there was weird stuff of him like getting crazy in the studio and making.
Is that
weird
when
stuff.
he was like young and up and coming and he just disappeared?
No, he didn't disappear. I
What
mean,
was-
No.
what-
he
what's
got
his
like
story? I'm
strung
sorry.
out and did a bunch of weird shit, but he kind of like he's a legend, man. He didn't disappear.
I don't know.
But there's a documentary about him on Netflix.
Yeah, man. I wish I
I'm
knew.
gonna
what it
check
was
that
called.
out. I'm gonna check
Check it out. I don't know. I watched it a couple years ago. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's still there.
I'm so bad with the musicians. I saw there was a documentary about a bass player, but I'm remembering the story wrong. Have you ever seen the footage from like a German news station when John Frusciante was in full heroin mode? And
What?
he looked like he was
I kind of remember that.
shit, like
He was playing.
50 pounds, and he was in this crappy apartment, and they came to do an interview. It was after he left Chili Peppers like the first time, and they were just asking him about music theory, and that was when he was making some like he was just making some amazing stuff. Like he was playing some amazing stuff
Sure.
on a guitar, and he could. It looked like he didn't have the energy to like flick a finger. And they asked him to do a couple of guitar licks, and he was just like it was nothing. I was like, Jesus,
You know what?
this
That's
is-
a dude. I never got into that dude, but I appreciate his approach. Like, forget that he was whatever a heroin. just doing
you
drugs,
should.
but-
So once he got, I don't know if I hope he's still clean. But when he came back to Chili Peppers and then left again, he's got one or two. Like he did his own solo album with some experimental stuff.
Yeah.
Did you listen to that?
I did, and I don't know if I liked it, but I read about it a lot 1st, and I loved, like I said, his approach of like,
Okay.
he like recorded the drums in his kitchen, and just like whatever, man. I think he was at a point in his life, maybe he was doing drugs or not, but he was like, I'm gonna make a record, and I'm gonna make it however I want to make it.
I interpreted that whole because I did the same thing. I did a little bit of research. My brother Boyan, take a shot. He told me about like his whole musical journey. And when he left the band, he was telling me, and whatever, I read some interviews about he had a sound in his head. He had something in his head that he needed to make that same noise in real life. So he was, I mean, that's what he's trying to do.
Did whatever he could
And
to
as a
figure it
musician
out.
and an artist, that's like where you talk about the magic of art. When
Sure.
you have something that's not in the world, but you actually see it in your head, and you have to do whatever you're physically capable of
Yeah.
to get as close to that vision as you can. This is really cool.
No, I love it.
That's cool.
I love it so much.
I just with the Chili Peppers, they lost me. Like Californication, back then, like it was cool and it got super commercial. And then everything after that, like I don't like it.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the chili.
Yeah, I just gonna, I mean,
But John Frusciante, like I appreciate. Look, man, he's good, and I just appreciate that approach. Like you said, like having a sound in your head and trying to like. I love that stuff, man. Or doing weird stuff, like, Mars Volta or that type of stuff. Like, we're gonna record 199 guitar tracks, and maybe 4 of them end up on the record. But whatever, we're
experimenting.
gonna do whatever we can. We're gonna stare at a painting for 17 hours, and then we're gonna write a guitar riff about that painting. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even care.
I
if it's good or
apologize
not.
for asking. Maybe I shouldn't, but like, have you seen the Beach? What's the name of the Beach Boys lead singer and like composer and everything? Brian, is it Brian? It's not Brian Adams.
Brian
Is it
Eno?
Adams? No, the main guy.
Brian
People are screaming it right now. But
don't
they
know.
did a movie with Paul Dano and John Cusack, where it's following him like back in the day when he played that first Beach Boys album, because he ended up being like schizophrenic and all this crazy. He had all these mental issues.
Yeah.
Was he the
That's
one
my
that was doing
favorite.
drugs
Brian-
and stuff?
Yeah.
He was like the pretty boy one with the blonde hair. And,
Yeah, but they did a very, very good job, in my opinion, of going back. Like, so John Cusack is the present day Brian Williams.
Brian.
And
I don't
then
think
Paul
that's right
Dano.
either.
Yeah, I'm messing it up. God, I'm an asshole.
Anyway,
And then Paul Dano is the young guy. So when he had
Prime
prime time.
yeah.
And then they show him in the production because, like, there's quotes like Paul McCartney saying that one of those Beach Boys songs, I can't remember which song it is, but it's a well-known song. He said it's the best produced song in history. And they show him in the studio bringing in cows, bringing in horses,
Hey,
bringing in all
whatever you
this,
gotta do.
because he had these sounds in his head, and he was trying everything he could possibly
love
do
that.
to recreate this song. He had every layer, like you talk about Joe the Landscape.
Yeah.
He had it all in his head. And apparently people that love good production like just are in awe of that one song that I can't think of, and I can't think of the name of the guy or anything. So
Thanks
I'm going
for
to shut
bringing
up,
it up.
and I'm going to fade away.
We're gonna
I'm going to
check
go see
that
where
out.
Michael's at.
We're gonna go see where Michael is, and bring them back here if you go get him, because what we're gonna get into next, like coming up for Nick's, future art exposition.
Yeah,
right?
we could call it that.
His expo here coming up at the Green Door. I'd like to get Alec involved in this.
Hey, Alec, you want to be on our podcast?
Yeah, Alec, get over here. Sit down real quick, Alec. Sure. We have Alec here from Mythos, but yeah, Alec, on the 23rd, we're gonna have another zine night here,
Yeah.
right at
Yeah.
the Green Door, and is it Nick's special night? Is it?
It could.
It could be.
You know what, man?
Like, what's going on?
I
just
feel
want everybody-
like the intention was to be like, let's blow that up. But the more I think about it, like, there's so much other cool stuff happening.
Right.
I mean, yeah, the 23rd, we're gonna put a bunch of my art here.
Okay.
We're gonna leave it here for a while. Come check it out. That's like I'm calling it like the official release of the second issue of my zine. But there's so much other stuff, that I found out about through Michael and Alec that's going on here that has nothing to do with me. I mean, there's other stuff happening that night.
Right.
That
Yeah,
is-
absolutely. But I know that you're going to have art here for sale.
Sure, we can call it what you want for the sake of the podcast.
So Nick is being very
Right. Modest.
modest.
Right.
So at the Green Door, we're having the 4th artist night. 4th, right? So Nick is the featured artist for the next. Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Thanks,
Grab
Mike.
a mic.
Or don't.
So Nick's going to be the featured artist for the next month and a half that we have here at the Green Door. So that night we are featuring him and his art. So if you come to the Green Door, all his art's going to be all over
I've
the
been
walls.
painting my ass off. So
But
come check it out.
because Nick also has a zine, and Alec, who is the boss man of Mythos Publications, and also he's
the
he
leader.
creates the Mythos zine, and he's actually one of the guys that are spearheading zines in Northwest Indiana. He's one of the main voices, one of the biggest voices is trying to get the word out. Like when people say, "What is a zine? How do you pronounce it?" All that stuff. Alec, if he
Why don't we
would
first
quit being so shy.
define the zine? Because a lot of people
You look like
here-
you're singing karaoke
Yes,
right now.
but that night because hold on a second because Nick also has a zine. We're having a zine night. We've had a couple of those already.
We're cross-pollinating.
Right.
The idea of Gloom World art and mythos and all the other cool, like the zine scene coming
Right.
up. We're cross-pollinating those ideas and saying, if you like this, you're probably going to like this. And if you like this, you're probably going to like this
that.
too.
Right.
And the main focus is Nick, though. So
I mean, it could be.
No, yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of
I'll
staring
wear a
that night.
tie, I guess.
Well,
We
here's the
need you to
thing.
wear a tie. I'm gonna wear a tie.
With the zine, when I first met Alec, it was the first zine night, and I didn't know what it was. But when I came here and got to meet you and then the other artists, it was very inspiring. Sincerely, like I was really inspired by that, and I loved the art. And that's when I saw Nick's stuff and other people's. And since then, you guys have had what, 4 or 5 other zine nights here at the Green Door?
Four.
Four.
This will be the fourth one again.
This will be the
Yeah.
fourth one. And
So Alec, sorry,
Go-
Joe.
no, go ahead.
Alec, introduce yourself real
Yeah.
quich. Nobody knows that there's 5 of us sitting in the circle right now.
Yeah, I just got pulled into this podcast, so this is really cool. Alec, and I do the whole mythos thing. So
That's a wonderful
yeah,
introduction.
that's all I got.
But no, yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
So when we first opened, the first day, the first customer was Alec, and we got talking about.
Wait a minute. How many books did he buy, though?
yeah.
He bought like
300?
He bought a few. Yeah. Yeah,
Romantic.
he paid for our rent for the month.
I bought a really nice copy of Catcher in the Rye.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So
Really?
he kind of approached me and said, I do a zine. So it worked out well because how many your zines were published probably for a month or two after we opened?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 months.
So he walks in and we got talking about zines, but I fell in love with the idea behind a zine because basically anyone and everybody could publish a zine. And what a zine is, it's an idea, small press, meaning that you could publish anything, and we will gladly put in our store. And Alec in particular, because he's created a following. This is his passion project, and he's found people from all over the area who've actually. Our first zine night was actually with just your zine, Mytho Zine. We had a zine night. We
was here.
hosted it, and it was just that one. Now we have. I mean, we're looking at the table now, we probably have 8 to 10 different zines, and these are all locally produced. Yours being a compilation. Brianna does particularly women's rights, feminist movement. We have
Doesn't have to do with music or meditation.
right. It doesn't.
You could be on this podcast.
Yeah, that's why I don't belong here, as I mentioned earlier.
You do.
But yeah,
You do.
but Nick does. He has a short story poetry with his art. Bridget is strictly poetry.
You have, Alec, a couple of your own short stories that you got out of the attic, or I don't know when you told me. Like, there's one story that keeps going from episode to episode, and it's one of your own.
Yeah.
But you've actually gotten quite a few different artists and writers from the area, poets, to get in on Mythos. So if you want to talk a little bit about either the history of Mythos or however you want to explain it, how you got into it, and yeah.
Yeah, no, the real simple way about it is I had went on a road trip, and on this road trip, I ended up coming across a bunch of different like do-it-yourself publication kind of like stores. And so I started looking through them, thumbing through them. I thought it was really cool looking and just kind of like experiencing that. Also meeting another person who made zines. They kind of encouraged me to go off and, write my own or make my own. And so I figured, there was something in my heart, I guess you could say, that when I looked around the region, I felt like there was something missing. And so I felt like there was kind of a bit of a disconnect between different artists and writers in the region, like those who really don't have a voice. And so I wanted to try to see, like, what would it look like for us to come together and just to create things that people can read and thumb through, different books or whatnot that have, sketches and stuff like that in them that are just amusing, nothing super impressive, just, really down to earth, kind of has this grungy punk rock kind of vibe.
Yeah, big time.
And so, it's been kind of a phenomenal experience of just like putting this thing together. It is a collaborative zine, Mythos is. And so, it ended up being a case where I just started an email account. And I was like, all right, like I have an Instagram. Those who find the Instagram can email me, and from there they can, send submissions in, and I'll look through it, and then we'll just throw a compilation together of different writing and artwork. So
on the 23rd, you're going to have another zine night here at the Green Door.
yes,
What artists are involved in Mythos?
yeah. There's a handful of different people. Some of the people that were in the last one, there's a guy named Casey King, really cool guy. I got to
Yeah,
meet
I've met
recently.
him here. I met him here.
Yeah, I know.
before.
I met him at I might have met him here or Band Art Fair over at 18th Street, and so really cool guy. Him, his friend Sophia Rapata, she's great.
She is awesome.
She's fantastic.
She's going to be at Fluid. She's going to be at
Okay.
the coffee shop. But
Yeah.
very cool.
There's a couple other people like Lori Jackson. She makes a zine of her own called Appendix Z. She just kind of came out of the woodworks. That came out of nowhere. She came to a zine night, dropped off some of her zines, and kind of walked up to me and was like, "Hey, I started this whole zine because I ended up coming across Mythos." And I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know that Mythos had that kind of influence on people." So that's
Very
awesome to
cool.
hear that. So
Very cool.
Nick Gloom. Nick Gloom has.
Oh yeah.
Nick Gloom.
Oh yeah, Nick Gloom. I forgot he's over here.
Forgot about that dude.
Hey, how's it going?
You've been quiet over there, Dick.
Yeah, come on back.
He's cheesing.
Yeah.
He's cheesing
Sorry,
over
guys.
there.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a handful of different people. So
Okay.
yeah, really cool artists from the region.
Yeah.
He's doing cool stuff. I think he really touched on something when he said it was like a punk rock attitude. I think that's what kind
I
of
see
like
that whole punk rock do-it-yourself vibe within the zine.
that's what
in
got me
Mythos, too.
sucked into it. Trying to get my art into galleries and do stuff like that. Like, man, let's just go back to square one and leave weird magazines around, leave drawings around town and see who finds them, and
Yeah.
that's the appeal to me.
It is. Yeah.
It
it's
is a
kinda
punk rock
underground.
thing.
I mean, I know we're mentioning names and everything now, but there's this really cool underground
Totally.
vibe and punk rock vibe to it,
Totally.
or grunge. I love it. Really, really good stuff. But yeah, Nick, thanks for coming out tonight.
Yeah, thanks
Alec,
for
dude,
having me.
Thanks for coming too.
Yeah.
It was a party.
It was
we had
a party. We had a good time. We always have a good time. And Michael, thanks for setting it all up. We appreciate it. If it wasn't for you and
Yeah, Michael, thanks for all your
The
wisdom.
National.
and the National, always listen
Thanks
to the
for
National at the bookstore. We appreciate it. But yeah, everybody come out the 23rd, February 23rd at the Green Door Bookstore. It's going to be an awesome zine night.
Yeah.
And Alec, real quick, where can people find you? And Mythos online,
Yeah, you can look up on Instagram Mythos Publications. That's our handle, so you'll find us there. That's really the only social media that we're on. We're not
Cool.
looking to kind of flood ourselves all over Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. So
Right.
just Instagram. So.
Awesome. And Nick, how about yourself? So everybody can find you.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready. Everybody, write this down.
You could find everything at gloomworld.com, www.gloomworld.com. But Instagram is Gloomworld TV. Facebook is, I think, Gloomworld Art or maybe Gloomworld TV. I don't know. Check out my website, man. It's all there.
Great. Well, thanks, guys, for coming out. This was a really good episode. And we're out. Adios. I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.